I'm Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. Let's take it now to one of my favorite segments, the Cowboys Report Mailbag. Thanks again for all of you who sent in your comments and your questions. First up from Marcus, one I often see here. Why don't the Cowboys sign Tony Romo as a quarterback coach? Well, Marcus, it's simple. Why would Tony Romo want to leave his cushy job as a color commentator to go do a quarterback coaching job? It's just not going to happen. Romo's got a good gig right now. He's not going to leave that anytime soon. Next up, one I really like from Sean Blue asks, do you believe this offense can be effective relying mostly on the running game, knowing the Cowboys receiving core is worse without Dez and Witten? That's a great question, Son. So you do look at the receiving core, and it's worse. Just on paper, it's not as good. Hearns, Beasley, Williams, Gallup, Thompson, other guys like Wilson and Noah Brown, it's not the same. If there's some good news that the Cowboys don't need, and they're never going to be with the way the roster is constructed, a top 10 or top 5 receiving core passing attack. That's not how they're built. They are built to run the football. Now, it does make things difficult because Zeke is going to see stack boxes game in, and game out every single snap. So that's the concern there. If the Cowboys can even just have a, call it 20th ranked passing offense, that probably means the ground game did their job, they're top 5, and the offense overall is top 10. That's what the Cowboys are going to hope for out of their passing attack. They can do that, but no Dez, no Witten. It's definitely going to be a little bit harder. The good news is the offensive line should be better, and Z, of course, is back for all 16 games. So again, folks, let me know who will lead the Cowboys in receiving yards this year. Really not a wrong answer on this list, but I'm going to go with Allen Hurns. I think he is the most likely option of those top 4 guys to the Cowboys. If you want to go tight end or a guy like Deontay Thompson, let me know in the comments section. Next up from Twitter, William Tyler Brown asks, any chance the Cowboys bring in NaVorro Bowman in case one of the linebackers get hurt? The Cowboys showed interest in Bowman, and he's still unsigned, which is kind of surprising. But here's the issue for the Dallas Cowboys and why I don't think it's very likely. They have Sean Lee, they have Jalen Smith, they have Leighton Vander Esch. The Cowboys want those 3 to be their top 3 linebackers. And if you're NaVorro Bowman, why would you want to come in and be the 4th linebacker? At your age, you're trying to win and you're trying to start. So I think the Cowboys like Bowman, but they drafted 2 linebackers. You can throw Chris Covington up there as well. They signed Joe Thomas. They still have Damian Wilson. I don't think you're going to see the Cowboys add NaVorro Bowman unless there is a big injury to one of those top 3 players and Bowman is still unsigned. So don't get your hopes up there. Next up, when are the Cowboys going to move on from an ineffective Tyrone Crawford and his big contract? Well, I don't know if it's fair to call Crawford ineffective. You look at the stats and you say, oh, yeah, that's ineffective. The flip side is Tyrone Crawford, maybe more than any defensive lineman on the roster, does a lot of the dirty work for the Cowboys. He plays that defensive end role, does a good job of holding on to blockers and setting things up for guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and David Irving as well. So the big thing for me is that Crawford provides 3 things. A, the dirty work. B, he's often healthy, is rarely hurt. And then C, he provides some versatility and leadership. And you look at the defensive end depth chart, if you bring back Randy Gregory, then it makes some sense. But with Malik Collins hurt, you do want Crawford's position flex. He is a 3 technique. He is playing out of position right now as a defensive end, and he's done that for the team's benefit, not for his own statistical benefit. So that's kind of the deal with Crawford. If the Cowboys thrive at defensive end, if Taco and Randy Gregory all step up in training camp, then maybe it makes some sense to cut him. But he's a captain for a reason. I don't think you'll see Crawford get cut this year. Chris Corona wants to know, does the Cowboys make Collins play tackle or guard? I still think Collins is best at right tackle, and in reality, that's what the Cowboys will play him this year, barring a lot of injuries. It's going to be Tyron, Connor Williams, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and Lael Collins. That's your starting 5, and it's a damn good one as well. Reginald wants to know, and I'm glad we got this one in here, if the Cowboys fail to win the East and miss the playoffs, does Jason Garrett keep his job? I do not think so. Now, there's a scenario where, like, Sean Lee, Zeke, and Dak Prescott all get hurt, and maybe the Cowboys give Garrett another pass. But I think it's playoffs or bust for Jason Garrett this year. If he doesn't make the playoffs again, I don't know how the Cowboys will bring him back. If they don't make the playoffs, even just as a wild card, his job is not secure. Next up, Kevin Lawrence. What are the chances Dallas trades for Earl Thomas? And if so, what would be the trade? Some of you YouTube people didn't like me talking about Earl Thomas. This is why. I get this question all the time, and I'll say it again. Yeah, don't get your hopes up. Earl Thomas is going to, I think, stay for the Seahawks this year. If you want to get Earl Thomas, as I've said from the beginning, the most likely option is in free agency next year if the Seahawks don't work out a long-term deal with Thomas. They want to keep him, and they have a massive asking price. They wanted the first. They wanted a second. Cowboys couldn't do that there. They wanted Connor Williams instead. So don't get your hopes up for an Earl Thomas trade quite yet, but don't totally rule him out coming at some point to the Cowboys. If the Seahawks don't reach a deal with Earl Thomas, then maybe you see in free agency Thomas comes home and plays for the Cowboys. Next up from Travis, how many more years do we develop T-Will, and then can Michael Gallup replace Terrance Williams? Well, we'll start with the first part there on Terrance Williams. It's a make or break here. Now, he's going to be on the roster because of his contract. You save zero money by cutting him. It just doesn't make sense to cut him. Now, the foot injury is going to put him a little bit behind the 8 ball this year, and that could allow Michael Gallup to emerge, and Gallup is going to compete with Terrance Williams to be that number 2 wide receiver with Hearns, most likely being your number 1 guy. The Cowboys will spread the ball around, put up great numbers at Colorado State. I like Gallup quite a bit. I would not be surprised if we get to even just say week 10 if Michael Gallup hasn't emerged as at least the number 2 wide receiver on the Cowboys. All right, members, next up. Who is the best cornerback on the team right now? A lot of, I think, solid options here for a young and talented squad. Cheeto, Jordan Lewis, Byron Jones, or at least for me, the top 3 guys. At the top, though, it is Cheeto. I loved what I saw out of him when he was healthy last year. Now, he wasn't always super healthy, but I think Cheeto, Jordan Lewis, and Byron Jones are all going to compete to do that number 1 cornerback role there. If he's healthy for all 16 games, I think he becomes the number 1 guy. One thing just to monitor. Now, we know how the Cowboys feel about long quarterbacks under Chris Richard, long arm quarterbacks. Cheeto does not have long arms. Jordan Lewis's arms, the undersized slot guy, or could be a slot guy, actually has longer arms than Cheeto. So just keep an eye on that one. All right, Sandman coming in. Nobody gives that was a poop emoji, what Tim Cowlishaw thinks about Jason Garrett's job security. He can barely win an episode of Around the Horn. Not really a question, but I thought it was funny, so I want to bring it up there. Good comment there, Sandman. All right, folks, I'm Tom Downey. Once again, follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage